this episode, I wanted to talk about something really cool. It was a good topic, which was like the All-Latino Dream Team, but according to me, right? So like just putting together a dream team of my favorite Latino players and putting them all on one team. I've seen a lot of people do this. I remember way back in the day, I want to say probably 15 years ago, they had the Latino Heritage Latin Legends Dream Team. And I remember that. I remember not necessarily agreeing with everybody that was on that team. So now I want to take the opportunity to put together my favorite Latino Dream Team. So this is the Latino Baseball Dream Team per Santos. I'm going to put this together and we're going to get it started right now. Now, here are the rules and parameters. I will be featuring, it's going to be basically like a starting lineup. So it's going to be one player per position on the diamond. So you're going to have one player per position on the diamond. I'm going to feature one starting pitcher and one closer and one designated hitter. So those are the parameters. That's it. I'm not going to feature a bench. I'm not going to have pinch hitters, pinch runners, whatever. Toda esa cosa, no. Nada de eso. Those are the rules. So ya ustedes saben. Let's kick it off. So before we proceed, I want to give a special shout out to my company and sponsor, Santos Threads. If you like baseball apparel, baseball inspired apparel, not just any baseball apparel, Latino inspired baseball apparel, tees, all kinds of great things. Check it out. Santos-threads.com. Check out Santos Threads. Or follow me on social media at the Baseball Aficionado on all platforms. And away we go. So let's start it out with my starting pitcher. I'm going to start on the mound in La Lomita, the greatest Latino pitcher in the history of the game, the one and only Pedro Martinez. Yes, Pedro Martinez. Let me tell you something. Pedro Martinez was as dominant as any pitcher I have ever seen. 83.9 WAR, which is top 5 among Latinos, 3-time Cy Young winner, 5-time ERA champ, 2004 World Series, a triple crown, 2.91 ERA. And when you consider those monsters who were all juiced up that he was facing in the steroid era, muchacho, ese tipo era una bestia, una leyenda. So Pedro Martinez will be my starting pitcher without a shadow of a doubt. There were others, obviously, that I could have considered. I consider Juan Marichal, but I feel like when you compare the bodies of work of Juan Marichal versus Pedro Martinez, I think you have to factor the eras. And I feel like the era in which Pedro Martinez pitched in was the hitters were so much more difficult. It was more of a difficult time. So I have to factor that in. And for that, I chose Pedro Martinez. Okay. At catcher, his battery mate. Pedro Martinez's battery mate, of course, from Vega Baja, Puerto Rico, the great Ivan Rodriguez. Ivan Rodriguez is, and I mean, it could be, I could be biased. Yo soy puertorriqueño, but I don't care. Like, you ask people from all over the world, they'll tell you Ivan Rodriguez was probably the one who elevated the play as far as how a catcher plays in the 90s. He was the absolute gold standard. Obviously, there were other catchers in general in MLB who were great, right? Johnny Bench. Mike Piazza was not a good catcher. He was a great hitting catcher, but he was not a great catcher. You had other greats, but in general, as far as Latinos, I don't think there was any debate. I mean, I love Yadi Molina. I love Benito Santiago. I love, who else? Tony Peña, but come on. Ivan Rodriguez is in a class by himself. 296 career average, over 300 home runs, all-time leader in hits, MVP, all-time leader in his position with 13 Gold Gloves, 14-time All-Star. Muchacho, no, este tipo era caballete. And he's got the second most stolen bases in the history of baseball for a catcher. So that's very rare that you see a catcher who's so well-rounded like that. Great player, great leader. Absolutely carried the 2003 Marlins on his back. So Ivan Rodriguez is my pick for catcher. All right, so we established those two positions. So let's go over to first base. At first base, to me, there was no debate. There's no debate. So I'm not picking Rafael Palmeiro. Sorry. I'm not choosing anyone else other than the great Albert Pujols. I mean, come on. Albert Pujols, the greatest Dominican ball player of all time. You could make the argument he's the greatest Latino player of all time with a WAR of 101.5, which is leader amongst Latino players. Rookie of the Year, 3-time MVP, 2-time Gold Glove, batting title, 11-time All-Star, 700 plus, 700 home runs, 296 average. And get this. Here's the other part. Esto lo más interesante. In his first 11 seasons, he compiled a WAR of 86.6, 445 home runs, and 1,329 RBIs. He was, and a 328 batting average, and a 1.037 OPS. I mean, to me, I make the argument, and I've seen a lot of great players, from the 90s on. Albert Pujols is the greatest, had the greatest first 11 seasons I have ever seen. And it could be argued probably the best 11 seasons in the history of baseball. So for that alone, Albert Pujols, El Dominicano, first baseman. Let's move over to second base. Second base, there were a lot of choices. Obviously, people can make the argument for Jose Altuve right now. Robinson Canó tainted his legacy, but obviously before that happened, you could have made the argument for him. But I'm going tried and true here. I'm going with the Hall of Famer, Roberto Alomar. Roberto Alomar, switch hitter, 12-time All-Star, 10-time Gold Glove winner, leader in Gold Gloves all time in his position, career 300 average, 814 OPS, and get this, 500 doubles and 474 stolen bases. I mean, he was as complete of a player as you can get. Switch hitter, power, average, speed, and excellence at the second base position. You could make the argument he's the greatest defensive second baseman who's ever lived, and he did everything else as well. The great Roberto Alomar is my second baseman. Turning over to the other side of the diamond. The other side, moving over to shortstop. Now, shortstop is a little tricky. This is going to be a little controversial. I don't care. Depending, people are going to say, oh, who are you going to pick at short? I'm picking Luis Aparicio. I know I could have went with A-Rod. Some people would have said, oh, well, why don't you go with Omar Vizquel? Those were all fair. But the way I look at it is Luis Aparicio played the bulk of his career as shortstop, whereas Alex Rodriguez did not play the bulk of his career as shortstop. He played a lot of it in the beginning, but he shifted over to third base. And also the steroid stuff kind of made me not consider him in that way. Not that he wasn't a great player, but I feel like there's a lot of questions about Alex Rodriguez's legacy, regardless of, take it as you will, regardless of how you feel about it. What else? So Luis Aparicio, 13-time All-Star, El Venezolano, Hall of Famer, 9-time Gold Glove winner, 2,677 hits. A lot of people don't know that he almost had 3,000 hits. So for a guy who didn't have a reputation for being a great offensive player, he did a lot. Like he got a lot of hits, and he compiled some good offensive numbers, considering 506 stolen bases, and he led the American League in stolen bases on 9 other occasions. So keep that in mind. Elite defensive player for his generation. Speed, had a little contact, ability to make some contact. Wasn't the greatest offensive player, but I feel like he was the most well-rounded shortstop who set the standard for that position, for that era. And for that, I'm choosing El Venezolano, Luis Aparicio. Let's go over to third base. Third base, to me, is the easiest position to choose other than catcher. To me, it's very easy, and I'm choosing the recent induction, the recently inducted or soon to be inducted, voted third baseman, Adrián Beltré, El Dominicano. More than 3,000 hits. I mean, Adrián Beltré, more than 3,000 hits, 477 home runs, 1,707 RBI, 5-time Gold Glove winner, 2-time Platinum Glove winner, 93.5 WAR, he's in the top 5 all-time among Latino ball players. That matters because, you know what, los latinos somos de los mejores peloteros, los latinos. Así que eso vale, okay? So, Adrián Beltré, complete, and I make the argument too, and a lot of people may think I'm crazy for saying this. I'll say it. I think he's probably the most complete Dominican player in the history of the game. He is the most complete Dominican player. I know he didn't steal bases. He did everything else. So as far as that, I feel like he's the most complete Hall of Famer they have, and he deserves to be there. So Adrian Beltre is my third baseman. So now let's head over to, so that's third base. So now vamos a hablar de los jardines. Okay, so let's go over to where are we gonna go? Oh, okay, let's go to left field. All right, this is another one that's a little controversial, but I don't care. At left field, I have to bring up a name that does not get mentioned a lot. Left fielder, I know some people are going to get upset at this one, but I'm going to pick it because many people don't mention this individual. He deserves more credit. He's the Latino trailblazer. A lot of people give Clemente credit in that regard for being a trailblazer, but this man was a trailblazer even before Roberto Clemente. I'm talking about the great Mini Miñoso. Mini Miñoso, the great Cuban comet, el cubano, Mini Miñoso. Mini Miñoso at left field. Now, 13-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove. He was a 5-tool player, played parts of 20 seasons, even played parts of seasons in the Negro Leagues in the 1940s. Okay, played in parts of 5 decades and compiled a batting average of 299. 299 batting average was the rare combination of contact and speed with a career 848 OPS, 2,000 plus hits, 200 plus stolen bases, 1,000 plus RBI, 11 seasons, and get this, 11 seasons with more walks than strikeouts. 11 seasons with more walks than strikeouts. How many players nowadays do you see with that stat, with the ability to have more walks than strikeouts? It's rare. It's a rarity. So Mini Miñoso, el gran cubano, I mean, just cometa cubano, like he's the best. He was a great player, and I feel like he deserves more credit than what he gets. He was a 5-tool player before his time. He had power, he had speed, he hit for average, and also if you take the time and look at the defensive metrics, they really are favorable to Mini. Mini was a great defensive player. I mean, a tremendous above average defensive player. Obviously, as he got older, his range and his numbers went down, but still, he was a tremendous defensive player. And on this list, I'm not only talking about offense, but really with this great Latino legends team, what I call my Latino Baseball Dream Team, I'm considering defense too. Defense matters. So Mini Miñoso at left field. At center field, the greatest Latino center fielder of all time, with all due respect to Bernie Williams, with all due respect to Cesar Cedeño and others, it is playing center field, the switch hitter de Manatí, Puerto Rico, Carlos Beltrán. Carlos Beltrán is one of the most complete players of all time. And what happens is, and I noticed this with complete players, I think complete ball players who have the 5 tools, who do a little bit of everything, I think they get overlooked sometimes because they do everything so well. It's easier to pay attention when you have a player who does 1 or 2 things particularly well. But when you are a player who can field, can hit for power, contact, switch hitter, can run, can steal bases, do everything, and be an absolute force in the playoffs, you're a Hall of Famer. And so, espero con el favor de Dios que él entre. I don't give a damn about stupid sign stealing. I don't care. Carlos Beltrán is a Hall of Famer. I don't care what anybody tells me. So, Carlos Beltrán, 435 home runs, 4th all-time among switch hitters, 1,587 RBI, 3rd amongst switch hitters all time, 565 doubles, most all-time amongst switch hitters, 2,725 hits, 3rd among switch hitters of all time, 78 triples, 2nd among switch hitters, 3-time Gold Glove winner, postseason accolades up the galore, up the you-know-what, and just an absolute stud, a star, hit from both sides of the plate, that had a long run as the best player from Puerto Rico as well, and as the best center fielder in the game during that span. He had a nice run of 6, 7, 8 years as the best center fielder in the game. And for that, I'd say Carlos Beltran is my center fielder. Right field, this is not a mystery. But all due respect to the great Sammy Sosa, and with all due respect to the great Vladimir Guerrero, I have to tengo que incluir al gran astro puertorriqueño Roberto Clemente de Carolina. He's the right fielder. Obviously, we know 3,000 hits, 4 batting titles for a right-handed hitter. The all-time leader amongst Latinos in triples with 166. 12 Gold Gloves. He's the leader at his position all time. He's top 3 WAR amongst Latinos of all time with a 94.8 WAR. I mean, and a career 317 hitter as a right-hander. I mean, that's outstanding. Broke barriers, did all that stuff. He's the absolute best in that position. So my right fielder is the great Roberto Clemente. Now, let's take it to the position that I had a little trouble filling out, and I'll tell you why. I was torn with designated hitter because I thought about going true to the position of designated hitter. So obviously I had options like Edgar Martinez as well as David Ortiz. I was torn between those two. And then all of a sudden I took a step back and I said, wait a second, I'm not going to pick neither one of them. And you may say, why would you not pick any one of them? Because I decided, you know what? I need another hitter. And I don't care that he played another position, the person I'm going to put. I don't care that this person played another position. Yo lo voy a incluir como quiera. My designated hitter is the greatest player to ever come out of Venezuela. The great Miguel Cabrera will be my designated hitter. Miguel Cabrera, triple crown, 2-time MVP, 12-time All-Star, 511 home runs, 3,174 hits, 627 doubles, 306 career average, career 901 OPS, utter dominance, and as I said, the greatest Venezuelan player in the history of the sport. Now, Ronald Acuña Jr., who's playing now, has a chance to become that because he's more complete than Miguel Cabrera ever was. But just from his sheer dominance as a hitter, Miguel Cabrera is the best, the greatest Venezuelan player of all time. So, and I really believe that. So I have Miguel Cabrera as my designated hitter. I know he played first base and he started out as a third baseman with the Marlins. I don't care. He is my designated hitter. Now, last but certainly not least, I need to add the closer. So who do I have as the closer? Let's take a look at the closer. I think this one is very obvious, right? El Panameño, Mariano Rivera, Yankee legend. His number is retired. He's in Cooperstown. Number retired with the Yankees, Monument Park, the whole thing. 652 saves, all-time saves leader, a career 2.21 ERA. That's absolutely ridiculous. 13-time All-Star, 5-time World Series winner, World Series MVP. I mean, basically, when you put him in the game is over. I don't want to hear anything about Arizona in 2001. Who cares? Nobody's perfect. But Mariano was just about as close to perfect as it gets. He was just one of those guys that once you put him in the game, ya, el juego se acabó. Se acababa el juego. That was it. When you put him in the game, it was over. It was a wrap. So the original Sandman, the Sandman, if you will. So those are my picks. So that is my All-Latino Baseball Dream Team. My Latino Baseball Dream Team. And that's my roster. So let me know, guys, what do you think about this team? Who did I leave off that you would have rather have seen? Or who should I have included, right? Or do you agree with my roster? Do you like my roster? Comment, let me know. Definitely, let's keep the interaction going. Let's talk about it on social media. So let's get it going and keep it going. And this was episode number 2 of the Baseball Aficionado. And I want to make sure to say, make sure you live life as if you're in a 3-2 count. Always. Until next time.